Well, good afternoon. Or is it good morning? I'm not sure. It's all so exciting. It's also wonderful. Wonderful what has happened. Oh, terribly sorry. Very rude of me. My name is Potts. I'm the head teacher of Grimsthorpe School for... Grimsthorpe School. It's a rather lovely co-educational establishment on the North Devon coast. Yes, Potts is the name. The children call me Crackpots. I hope in an affectionate way. My real name is Robert. Robert Potts. Bob Potts. Grimsthorpe School. You may have heard of us, of course, because we were involved in that spy scandal a short while ago, really, where our students managed to discover the whereabouts of some secret plans and save the world. Or you may have forgotten. Newspaper headlines seem to come and go so quickly. Yesterday's headlines are today's fish and chip papers, as they say. Anyway, here I am, head teacher of Grimsthorpe School on the North Devon coast, and we're in lockdown. Yes, we had one of those viruses that affected our students, and it's gone through the whole school, and we were told we couldn't send them home. So suddenly all these students were faced with a terrible prospect of not being able to escape to their homes, to go back to their parents, but instead were stuck with people like me and the very students they were wanting to escape from. So I devised a plan. I thought I've got to keep them busy during this lockdown. I've got to give them a new routine that isn't necessarily a school routine. So some of them were cleaning the grounds, picking up litter, doing the lawns, that kind of thing. And others I set cleaning the books in the library. I mean, it does get very dusty because, to be honest, they're not used that much. Well, anyway, one day, after a cleaning session, one of the students, Lucy, her friends call her Flower, I think she's a botanist, she comes rushing in, very excited, accompanied by her boyfriend, a young man, whatever, Edward. They call him Binky. Binky? What kind of name is that? Anyway, she had discovered a document inside one of the older books, and it purported to show the whereabouts of some wrecker's treasure. You see, many hundreds of years ago, this wasn't a school, it was a manor house, and the lord of the manor, he was thought to be involved with a gang of wreckers and smugglers. And he hid all over his house various things that had been stolen or taken from wrecks on the coast here. They were never found. So this was really something very special. And we couldn't tell anybody about it, so we made the decision we would send the students out to try and find the treasure for themselves. So I'm inviting you to join us on that treasure hunt. We'd like you to think about the clues that we discovered. And each of our students were given a copy of the clue to go and try and find out what was going on. So we'll get our students to tell you the clue. And you can try and work out what you think the treasure might be and whereabouts in a stately home it might be hidden. We'll give you time to look at that, pause the video or whatever it is you do, and then our students will come back and tell you exactly what happened. It's all really rather exciting. So we hope you will take the time to join us on this treasure hunt as we seek to find here at Grimsthorpe School the secrets of the wrecker's treasure.
Hi, I'm Lucy, but you can call me Flower. As I found the document, I was given the task of finding the first clue, and this is what it said. My father's father was always behind the times. Whilst he was old in his ways, he always took steps to ensure he would never be caught with any loot. So he hid it in his own little hiding place and washed his hands of it all, every penny, in salt water naturally. So what do you make of that? Have a think, and I'll tell you how I got on later.
Well, I must say, the boys were rather rotten when it came to my clue. It was easily the most sinister. I had shivers just reading it, let alone working it through. But I did it, without the boys. So what about you? Do you dare to try and solve the secret? The haunted East is a fearsome place. Wild spirits scream and banshees wail, yet pause a while in the dark and drink in the atmosphere. The spirits are warm and friendly. When you take time to look for yourself, you'll see it square. Intrigued? Then wait until I tell you what happened later.
I'm Edward. I'm attached to Lucy. Really, really deeply attached to her. Mr. Potts says we're attached at the hip. Robert, my best friend, says we're attached at the lip. Anyway, you don't want to know about that. My clue. Picture this. Civilization is but a thin veneer. Strip it back, and underneath savages lurk, rich, colourful and fantastical. Look for the moon as it shines on itself, revealing hidden treasures. Most odd, but it didn't take me long to figure it out. Maybe a couple of days. Maybe a week. I hope it's not so long for you.
Hi, I'm Roger. Most people think I'm a bit slow, but I sorted my clue out faster than anyone, though more by luck than judgment. Still, it was great fun, and I got mentioned in assembly and everyone cheered. My clue's a bit confusing, but you might get it if your head's in the clouds. Little clue of my own there. We thieves are under condemnation. We are told, thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not murder. We brought those words with us and hid them, not in our hearts as we should, but in the hole beneath your feet. You'll find them when lost souls offer prayer. Weird, huh?
Roger thinks I'm his girlfriend, and I let him think that because it keeps him happy and keeps me supplied with chocolate. I'm cleverer than him too, so let's see if you can work this out as logically as I did. This was not giving at a wedding, but it was kissed by kneeling princes. Now men dance it beneath their diamond light. Those that took it were hung on gallows hall, hung high, like my treasure.
Hi, I'm Robert, and whilst I might not be the brightest button in the box, I am very enthusiastic and I sorted my clue out really quickly. I did come across a few problems along the way, but I think mine was probably the easiest, and perhaps you will too. The gong sounds and we sit and wait to be filled. Our bodies are restored. They are no longer empty like the ones in this place. The items you seek are well protected, but you cannot search for them during the day. So, you must search for them at another time. So when it suits you, let me know when you found them.
I'm Marby, a genuine genius when it comes to science, and an absolute duffer when it comes to being a detective. I hated this clue thing. I didn't get it, and in the end I had to have Jane help me, which annoyed Roger, who thumped me. Still, I got my revenge, put laxatives in his porridge. That kept him occupied for most of the morning. Anyway, the clue. So it says, time stands still when shadows fill the skies. Besides the marker, small moons shine like a string of stars, trodden down by the feet of a sea god whose little brick-lined oceans see no sails, but is filled with gold. His island is surrounded by water, but you can reach it by walking without a bridge. And what's a boy supposed to do with that? It's poetry. I'm- I don't have time for poetry. I'm a scientist. Still, if you have the mind for it, you might be able to do it.
I admit I had help with this clue. Binky, Edward, he wouldn't hear of me going treasure hunting alone, so he accompanied me. And then he insisted that it was my clue, so I must solve it. And it was pretty simple, really. All this reference to father's father obviously meant grandfather. And then the mention of time could mean a grandfather clock. And the school does have a grandfather clock in the main entrance hall. And when we got there, we were faced by this big brick wall. And when the clue talked about behind the times, I thought maybe there was a door behind the clock. But when I tried to move it, the thing just wouldn't budge. It wouldn't move. But then I opened the clock face and turned the hands backwards. And there was this big rolling sound, which was then followed by a thud. And then a door swung open in the panel next to the clock. And by the side of them, we saw these stone steps leading downwards. And we took it as a clue. And as it was dark, we had one of Mark B's torches. And the steps were slimy and wet, and the whole place stunk of stale fish and seaweed. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves in the most wonderful cave. This must have been the wrecker's secret place. But it was just a cave, and the clue said that they washed their hands. And there was no place to wash our hands. Until Binky saw it. This basin that was about head height. So I climbed on his shoulders and peered in with my torch. And I could see that it was filled with coins. So I dug my hand in and threw them in the air, and they all glistened like stars and fell like raindrops.
The east wing of the school has always had a bad reputation. Stories of ghostless women, headless horrors, wailing spirits. But I didn't believe in ghosts. So I went alone to investigate. Little did I know, Robert followed me at a distance just to make sure I was alright. He's such a romantic. I made the mistake of going after dark. The curtains in the east wing are old and tatty, and when the wind blows through the old windows, the curtains flap like mad bat wings. Every step I took was one of terror as they flapped and smacked in my face. But the words said the spirits were warm and friendly. If there was such thing as a ghost, it wasn't going to do me any harm. I remembered the clue. It said I needed to look for myself. I wondered if that meant I needed to look for me in a mirror. And there, at the end of the corridor in the east wing, was this huge Gothic mirror. I walked towards it, down the avenue of phantom rags. My image was grey and unreal. I looked like a ghost myself. Robert later said it scared the pants off of him. I stood in front of the reflected glass. I prodded the frame and looked behind it, wiped away the dust. Nothing. The clue mentioned something about a square, and I saw just beneath the bottom of the edge of the frame a small square panel. I touched it. Nothing. I twisted it and it came away in my hand. I looked inside the newly formed hole and discovered a great space, a hidden wine cellar, filled from floor to roof with vintage spirits. It was then Robert came up to me and touched me on the shoulder, whispered in my ear. I screamed and fainted straight away.
After solving Lucy's clue for her, I pursued mine. Lucy, of course, insisted that she comes along. My clue mentioned the moon, and my first, and as it turns out, correct thought, was that we need to conduct the search by night. I also surmised that, as the hiding place would be revealed by the moon, we needed to fling wide the curtains. We started in the Great Hall, where we have assemblies. It's full of pictures of past heads and really badly painted landscapes done by local artists. Some are truly dreadful. I was saying such a thing to Lucy around midnight when the moon broke through a cloud and streamed into the hall. Fell on a particularly good example of bad art. A moon over the sea. 6-year-old could have done better. For all I know, it was a 6-year-old. I said so to Lucy, who told me to shut up. It was shining on itself. That was the clue. I bet there was something hidden at the back, or there was like a safe behind the picture. Well, we pulled it down and we found nothing. Absolutely zero. I was despondent. Then Lucy started to act like a lunatic. It was the moon. She started to grip off the back of the picture and pulled out the painting itself. Then I got it. The clue. Civilization is a thin veneer. Strip it back and you will find. I took my penknife and picked at the ghastly moon, and suddenly it came away. A thin veneer, and underneath a picture of savages. Naked savages. Men and women, full frontal, honest. It's a Rubens, said Lucy, and she was right.
Finding the answer to this clue was just a fluke. I mean, all this talk about words being murder, I didn't get it. Was the treasure a set of knives or a pair of guns, maybe? Anyway, the clue talked about hiding words, so I immediately thought the library. Must have wasted 2 days taking books on and off the shelves. Though I did find some interesting sports magazines and one kind of rude art book which I kept for myself. Anyway, after 2 days I'd had enough. I wanted to go somewhere where no one would disturb me, so I thought, chapel. I don't think I was praying, just looking for inspiration. Anyway, none was forthcoming, so I decided, while I'm here, might as well do it properly. So I got down on my knees, because, that's how you pray, isn't it? As soon as I knelt down, there was this horrible squeak. My first thought was, it's a rat, so I was really excited. I've always wanted one for under my bed. I moved my knees up and down, trying to get up to catch it, and the squeaking continued. And unfortunately, it wasn't a rat, just some old floorboards. They were quite loose, so I gave it a good tug, and it came away in my hand right away. So I put my hand deep into this hole, and this smell came up like old books and ancient libraries. And then my hand touched something solid. It was a book. I pulled it out and it was a Bible. Well, obviously. And it was at that point that the old crackpot came in, and he saw what I had in my hand, and he burst into tears and said, "It's Gutenberg or something." And I said, "No, it's a Bible." But he was right. It was a really old Bible with a solid gold lock on it. Must have been worth thousands. I had found it, though no idea how.
This was way too easy. All the references to weddings and being kissed by princes, it was obviously a ring. Perhaps the king's ring, or maybe a bishop's. But that's a small thing. The school is a big place. It was literally like looking for a needle in a haystack. But all that talk of hanging, it made me think it was somewhere in the roof. Maybe it was part of the decoration on the city hall's ceiling. So I borrowed a set of ladders from the caretaker, and I spent hours studying every inch of that ceiling. But I found no ring. While I was up the ladder, Flower and Binky came in. They didn't see me, but suddenly Binky got down on one knee. Heavens, he's going to propose. All this talk of rings is driving everybody mad. She must have said yes, because they got up and started to dance underneath the chandelier, and as they danced, the glass sparkled. And then I saw it. One part of the chandelier had sparkled more than any other part. So I whizzed down my ladder, dragged it across, whizzed back up the ladder, and stood gazing at a ring, a diamond ring. A diamond as big as the Ritz, to quote F. Scott Fitzgerald.
So, one night, I wandered around school in the dark. It was a pretty spooky experience, I can tell you that. I kept walking into curtains and things, and then I really hurt myself and I walked into one of those empty suits of armour. By the time I got back to bed, my foot was bleeding. The next morning, I told Anna what had happened and I showed her my toe. Not something I would recommend if you're looking to preserve the romance in your life, guys. But as I was speaking, it dawned on me. The treasure was found in the night, not in the night. The suits were empty, not filled up. So, we and the gang went off in pursuit. We took hats off every suit. And wouldn't you know, in the last one, cups, bowls, plates, spoons, all gold. All solid gold.
I tried my hardest with the clue. Honestly, I did, but it's just poetry to me. Jane understands poetry, so when she saw the clue, she just came right out and said, "We're looking for a string of pearls." Just like that, it made sense. Like a string of little moons. Jane took me straight into the grounds, and we started looking around at all the statues, trying to find one that matched the words in the clue. Jane was like a hunter. I couldn't keep up with her. Then she was off to the sundial. I mean, of course, when clouds are in the sky, time stands still. And next to the sundial was a goldfish pond, very old, made of brick, with a statue of Poseidon in the middle. Suddenly the poetry made sense. It seemed obvious, but I hadn't seen it. Anyway, it was at this point that Jane said to me, "Right, go on, Markby. You can do the rest of the work from here. I'm not getting my feet wet. You've got to go over to that statue and look under his feet for some pearls." So I did, but I forgot to take my shoes and socks off, so by the time I got there, I was absolutely soaking. Anyway, I used my fingers to rummage around under the statue's feet, and just a few inches under the dirt, I found a small velvet box. I pulled it out and opened it, and sure enough, there are a load of pearls in there. I chucked it to Jane and walked out, and she said, "Well done, Markby, you found the pearls." And then she ran off back to the school, with me trudging behind, soaking wet. Story of my life.